No, look, they might be obliged by the Ministerial Handbook in terms of a piece of paper and bureaucratic compliance, but it doesn't mean it's ethically right or it's morally correct. It's just political madness. Ministers are paid a huge amount of money. They're paid about 2.5 million rand a year, about 200,000 rand a month. Surely they can afford to cough up 1,000 rand to pay for the electricity bills like the rest of society. It really is just politically insensitive, but it comes against a backdrop where government since 6 has allowed Eskom in different administrations to be run into the ground. And hence we're seeing with Eskom since 2006, double-digit tariff hikes every year. Workers and ordinary consumers and ordinary business in the economy are struggling to afford to pay their electricity tariffs. But here we are saying the spoiled ministers of cabinet, they don't need to worry about these things.
Yeah.
At the same time, in 2020, pleaded poverty, said it can't afford to honor a signed wage agreement with nurses and teachers and police officers, and thus decided to pickpocket them with a little increase. We've seen government retrenching workers in SOEs. We've seen municipalities not paying municipal workers. So really, it is a complete callousness on the part of the state. We think the government should reverse this and make sure these ministers pay for the electricity they consume like the rest of society.
Yeah. You've described this situation as being tone deaf, to what the rest of society is experiencing. You've just outlined there, the difficulties that everyone faces with having to pay higher electricity bills and water bills and other municipal bills, and also wages not moving as fast as inflation. What do you think would be a fairer arrangement? And are there any other perks that you think ought to be cut? Because at the end of the day, you're a minister at, at the president's wish. You can lose that job at any time, and deputy minister. And you do have your primary home, which you've always had, and you have the official residence. So what would be a fairer type of setup?
Sure. Look, so we don't have a qualm with ministers when they're appointed to cabinet, because a minister might come from the Eastern Cape or from Limpopo or wherever, and now they're appointed to cabinet. So they need to live in a house in Pretoria, they need to live in a house in Cape Town for their official work. That's fine. That's why government has provided for ministerial accommodation. There's no problem with that, because ministers, it is a short lifespan often, like a year, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever. And there's nothing wrong with government providing transport, airline tickets, petrol for the cars for work purposes. That's fine, because those are tools of trade in essence. But I think it goes a bit too extreme when they said they shouldn't pay for the electricity bills because it's their spouses, their children who are living with them consuming electricity. We all have to pay for electricity. We think also it's excessive that wives and children, or wives are given overseas trips. That doesn't make sense, but that's got nothing to do with government. It doesn't make sense that all ministers and the spouses get free plane tickets after they've left cabinet. It doesn't make sense that you allow ministers, they come into office, or even deputy ministers, to choose the type of vehicle they want. Those kind of things should be simply determined by government. The government garage should provide for a set type of vehicle as part of the government pool of vehicles to be used when a minister is in office and should be taken back when they leave office. But often we see a sense of entitlement amongst many of our ministers and our politicians, our premiers, our MECs, our mayors, where they really think they are at cabinet or municipalities or wherever, at their own benefit. They forget that they are deployed there to serve the public. The public is struggling. The resources of the government fiscus are really bleeding. And what we should be doing is directing every resource we have towards helping the unemployed, the poor, towards rebuilding the state. We shouldn't be spending a single cent on pampering people who have really become indulgent and spoiled at times.
Yeah. While this information has sort of been more publicized over the past weekend or so about the perks that they get in terms of their municipal bills, has COSATU been engaging with government on this, prior to this? Because you must have been aware that these are some of the benefits that they enjoy.
No, so we were also quite surprised, to be honest. For the past, 2 years, the previous minister of DPSA, Senzo Mchunu, had promised to revamp the Ministerial Handbook. The president spoke correctly to it that it's going to be overhauled, that we're going to get rid of this kind of excessive culture of bling of perks for ministers, etc. And so we had seen some positive response on that regard about 5 months ago, where some of the tickets for life were reduced and so forth. That's a positive step in the right direction. Not far enough, but still a positive step. So this is quite a surprise over the weekend to see that that there are some very suspect things here, and it really is quite wrong. We think, number one, government should make this handbook available for the entire public to see. So let the public scrutinize it to see what makes sense, what doesn't make sense, and what should be getting rid of. But government also has to be much more sensitive to the public frustrations across the ground. Nurses are frustrated because they're filling their jobs of 2 vacancies. Police officers are paid a pittance, yet we expect them to risk their lives for the state. You had municipal cleaners sent home in some municipalities for 6 months and no salary. We've seen workers at SAA retrenched. Governors struggling to provide electricity because the ESCOM is just running out of money. Yet at the same time, we have ministers in government entrusted with the fiscus who think nothing wrong with helping themselves to a very pampered lifestyle.
Yeah. Matthew, we're going to leave it there, but thank you very much for speaking to us at the SABC. That was Matthew Parks. He's the Parliamentary Co-ordinator for COSATU.